Hey guys, back with another one. This time 3.5 Ecoboost yet again. I think I might have jinxed myself after replacing those ignition coils. So I noticed that the overflow tank on the car for the coolant was a little bit low. So I added some coolant, drove it around a little bit the past few days, and it's low again. Only problem is I can't really see anything that's underneath the car that's leaking. Nothing, no obvious sign that it's like dumping on the ground. There's nothing that I could see at a quick glance that was showing that the coolant was, spraying onto the engine or any other pipes or anything else under the hood. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look underneath the car today and see what we can find out. See if we can kind of track this down and fix it before it becomes a larger problem. Okay, so if you can see right here, that's the lower intercooler pipe there, and there's one right above it. And as you can see, it's a little wet, and there's a little bit of coolant on there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this or not, but I'm going to definitely give it my best shot. This hose right up here that's covered in heat shielding or wrap is wet. So I'm going to trace that down and figure out what's going on. So I think we figured out where it might be. We know kind of where to look. But I've got my little helper Trace here, and he's gonna help me take this apart, and we're gonna find out where it's at. Let's take this cover off the engine here. I've already got the bolts loose, so we can kind of look around and see a little better. Trace, you wanna take this one for me? Put it down on the ground over there. Big helper. Two hands, you got it. Here, let me help you out, bub. There you go, put it on the ground right over there. Perfect. Let's take a look. So, it's a little warm. I'm gonna put this towel here so we don't lean on it too much. Okay, so we know right about here, this hose is where it was leaking onto, and it's wet. I can feel that, and...
Dad, probably I should stand on that tool because...
Let's see.
Because I'm little.
You gonna stand on the big one? Here,
Yeah.
stand on that one. You wanna take a look? You look in there? See, it's kind of dirty in there. All right. Here's another little trick. Turn your wheels when you park this thing, and these fender liners are kind of easy to move and manipulate. That bottom hose you can see right here, it's not wet here, but this is insulated, so it's probably just sopped up in there and wet.
Are you trying to fix Mommy's car?
Yes, sir. We're fixing Mommy's car. I think I see it. I think I see it, guys. All right. Right there. See that white?
I can't see the white.
I'll show you, buddy. Right in there. This is a fitting to the heater core.
Yeah,
and
I'm supposed to stand on the
it
black
definitely is wet, as you can see. That's where our leak is, and that's right above the turbo, which means there's a heck of a lot of heat. And yeah, you can even see it on the electronic wastegate right there, or at least bypass valve. I think that might be a wastegate or a bypass valve. Yeah, that's our problem. So that's what's causing us to lose coolant. You want to see? You want to see where the leak is?
Yeah.
All right, let me see if we can get you up in here and take a look. I'll hold you up. I'll do Superman style. Ready? You see in there? See at the back? Right in there. There's white on that little fitting in there. So this is not an extensive list of tools, but this is just what we're going to start with. This is for the cover, obviously, on the top of the motor. A few things to pry and, pick at. This is for pulling off radiator hose clamps. Very handy tool. If you don't have one, highly suggest getting one. Hook picks, this is a push pin tool, but this works for popping off, push pins that hold on harnesses and stuff for the wiring harness. These are the actual part numbers. Now, these may differ based on your model and your year. But this is for a 2020 Expedition Max with the 3.5 liter Ecoboost. You have this hose. This is what I had ordered. That's from Rock Auto. Like I said, I'm not affiliated with them. I just happen to, use them frequently if I can get the OEM parts. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into this. I've got everything set up. Okay guys, so we finished it up. We pulled out the old hoses here, and as you can see, they got a little mangled coming out. Now, one thing I did notice after taking these out was, you see these clips. These are supposedly the revised clips on these hoses. I don't know why they're revised. My guess is to make them a little bit easier to take off. But it looks like they're the same exact hoses. Now, or clips rather. Now the hoses, these are supposedly updated, like I mentioned. And the older ones, I think 17 through 19, don't quote me on this. Somebody's gonna, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. They're a different style clip. I think they just basically changed them so that they're a little easier to take off. But I think the hoses are still gonna have the same problem. Give them 60, 70,000 miles, with a lot of heat from the turbos, and they're gonna do the exact same thing. They're gonna leak and split or do whatever they do. Let me see if I can show you here. We've got them out. So if you look here, right along here, it looks like it was leaking. Now, I believe these little plastic collars hold the hose on. It basically clamps it on. It's just a clamp is what it looks like. But obviously didn't work very well because here we are replacing them. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and mock up the other hoses, the new ones, to the same kind of layout as these that we have here, so that I can kind of put everything on as one assembly. After that, we're gonna go ahead and hook up a cooling system bleeder to this. You take the cap off and it's like a funnel. You fill it up with coolant basically, and it sits there full with coolant. And when you start the motor, all the bubbles come out basically. You basically need to turn on the the heater, so that all of that coolant will flush through the heater core so you can push out all the air bubbles. Super important. Don't screw that one up. That's what's gonna cause you problems and make you pull your hair out. The other thing is we went to the store and picked up more brake cleaner. We didn't have enough. You can get any brake cleaner. I suggest getting the stuff that's probably not good for your health. I know that sounds stupid, but if you're in a very well ventilated area, that stuff strips coolant, oil, grease. It literally falls off. So it's gonna make your cleanup process that, as you saw when I pulled this apart, it was kind of like a waterfall of coolant. And it's everywhere. It's on the serpentine belt, it's on the block, it's on the frame, it's on all the wiring harness below, stuff near the turbo and the exhaust manifold. You don't want it to smell like burning coolant when you start the vehicle. So take your time, spray that all off, get it clean so that you don't have to deal with problems or, wondering, hey, is it leaking coolant still because I smell coolant when it's running and it's hot? Yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. We're gonna go ahead and get started here, and we're gonna see if we can get this all put back together, and then we'll bleed the cooling system and we'll go from there. Okay, we finished it up. Unfortunately, I dug through my toolbox. I don't happen to have the adapter for this thing right here. Basically, it's just a funnel. You have an adapter like this. This screws onto the top, kind of like this. Well, maybe the other way. Like so. Goes onto the funnel like this. And then it's supposed to sit here. And this would screw on and seal, and you would fill this. And then all the bubbles would come up through there. You'd keep adding coolant in there, and then everything eventually bleeds itself out and works itself out. So we're gonna have to do this manually, which will probably be a little bit messy, but it'll still get the job done. It's not the end of the world. So if you don't have one, don't worry about it. You don't have to go and buy one. Should you have one? It's debatable. If you got the extra money to spend and you're going to be working on your car a lot more often, I would say, yeah, spend the bucks. You know, go to Amazon and find a cheap one that, you know, will fit your kit, you know, or fit your car or your vehicle. I can't imagine they're horribly expensive. I got this thing probably 15 years ago, so I have no idea how much it cost me back then, but it probably wasn't cheap at the time when I was a mechanic. We're going to go ahead and fill this thing up anyway and bleed it, and then we're going to see if we can drive it around a little bit, see where we end up. Hey guys, as you saw at the beginning of the video also, I had a scan tool as well. You know, when I was showing kind of what tools you might need. Absolutely, once you're done bleeding the cooling system, you're done doing everything, you've driven the car, go ahead and clear the codes too. There's a good chance if you disconnect the battery and disconnected the PCM and then reconnected all that stuff, you're probably gonna have some faults, and they're obviously not gonna be real. So go ahead and make sure you clear those faults. I tend to hold this thing around 1500 to maybe 2000 RPM, sitting at idle, just to kind of get it warmed up a little bit more. As you do that though, you absolutely want to watch the overflow tank, you know, hop out, check it. As you can see here, I don't know if you can see it, we've got, you know, it's literally at this seam pretty much right here, which is, it's definitely above max. So I'm expecting some of this to push out once we start driving it and have it, you know, out of the expansion tank, which I'm assuming is going to be this hose right here. Potentially, there's usually a drain of some sorts once there's too much that it can kind of push out or overflow. So basically, the heater's on full blast. Heater core is open, obviously, because you got everything on full blast. Get it all the way up to operating temperature. Let it get up to right in the middle on the temp gauge. And then once you've got it sitting there for a little bit, keep an eye on this. Obviously you don't want it to overheat because you don't have the cap on the reservoir, but make sure you keep adding. Also, squeeze the upper radiator hose a little bit. You're probably gonna feel nothing but air, you know, until this thing starts to warm up and cycle with the thermostat. And just keep an eye on the overflow tank, keep adding, keep it at the line where it's supposed to be. It takes a little bit of time. It's a process. It's not fast, but once you kind of go through that enough times, you'll start to, you know, squeeze that upper radiator hose. You'll start to feel coolant in there, and you'll see as you squeeze it, sometimes bubbles may come out into the overflow tank. So you'll see, you know, in there, but it's just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Basically keep doing the same thing. Once you feel like, you know, you've gotten all the bubbles out, the coolant temp gauge is good, you're not overheating, you've got the reservoir full, everything feels good. You're gonna probably hear the fans kick on a few times during this process to kind of, you know, with the engine. then shut the car off, put the cap on, and then go ahead and, you know, basically take the car on a test drive. But I would say take it maybe not too far from your house or wherever you're at, just so in case there's a problem, you can go ahead and, you know, limp it back real quick without, you know, danger of overheating and torching the motor. Otherwise, the only other, I guess, helpful tips I could give you here is obviously, like with the coils, you know, try not to disturb anything that's, you know, already there. Don't move anything you don't need to move. Slipping those hoses in and out, like you saw in the video, was pretty simple. Take your time, you know, make sure all the fittings that you're going to push all those hoses onto are clean. You know, wipe them off with a rag. Make sure there's nothing nicked on there. You don't want to scratch up any of those sealing surfaces where those hoses slide on and snap in place. That's going to be a nightmare if you do that. I didn't have to take out the PCM. You know, I didn't have to take all this out and, you know, unhook the battery. I did it because I was trying to show you that, you know, a little bit more, you know, with the video to kind of see in there. But yeah, take your time. If you've got questions, post them in the comments below. You know, I can try to help out where I can. Obviously, I'm no expert on these, but this is just seat of the pants here, and, you know, me having mechanic skills for a long, long time. So like and subscribe, guys. Thanks.